The low rumble started as a whisper, a tremor beneath my feet that I almost dismissed as my own trembling. I was deep, deeper than I'd ever been, exploring the uncharted passages of the Crystal Moor caverns. The beam of my headlamp danced across walls glittering with calcite. A subterranean galaxy frozen in time. That's when the whisper became a roar. The ground lurched violently, and the world dissolved into a deafening crash of rock and dust. When the chaos settled and the thick, chalky air began to clear, my heart sank into a pit of icy dread. The way back was gone. A solid wall of jagged stone now stood where the passage once led to the surface. I was trapped. Panic is a cold, creeping thing. It slithered up my spine, whispering dark thoughts into my ear. You're finished. No one knows you're here. My training kicked in, a voice of reason cutting through the fear. I took a deep breath, the dust rasping in my lungs, and did a quick inventory. 1 headlamp with a spare set of batteries, a multi-tool, a single protein bar, a half-full water bottle, and 100 feet of climbing rope. Not much, but it was something. Survival is a mental game, I told myself. Stay calm, stay focused. My first priority was water. Without it, I'd be done in a few days. I remembered a faint dripping sound from a passage I'd noted earlier. Hope, a tiny flicker, ignited in the darkness. Finding the source of the dripping took hours. The cave system was a labyrinth, a disorienting maze of identical-looking tunnels. I marked my path by stacking small stones, cairns of hope in the oppressive gloom. My headlamp beam felt like a fragile lifeline in an ocean of black. Finally, I heard it again, louder this time, a steady drip, drip, drip. I followed the sound to a narrow fissure in the rock. Pure, clean water trickled down the stone, collecting in a small, shallow pool. I drank greedily, the cool liquid a balm to my parched throat. I refilled my bottle, the simple act feeling like a monumental victory. 1 problem solved. Now for the biggest one. A way out. Days blurred into an endless cycle of darkness. I rationed my protein bar, taking minuscule bites that barely teased my gnawing hunger. The spare batteries for my headlamp were a constant worry. I used the light sparingly, spending long periods in absolute, suffocating blackness, listening to the silence of the deep earth. In those moments, the cave felt alive. The gentle drip of water, the scuttling of unseen creatures, the faint sigh of air moving through distant passages. It was a world with its own rules, its own pulse, and I was an unwelcome guest. I explored methodically, always marking my way, searching for any sign of an upward draft, any hint of a connection to the world above. Each dead end was a blow, chipping away at my resolve. It was on what I guessed was the 5th day that I found the river. It wasn't a river like on the surface, but a steady, powerful current of water flowing through a wide, submerged tunnel. The water was frigid, and the current was strong. My first thought was to turn back. It was too dangerous. But then I felt it. A faint but definite breeze coming from the direction of the water. Airflow meant an opening. It could be a dead end, a siphon that would pull me under and never let go. Or it could be my only chance. Fear and hope warred within me. I stood at the edge of the dark water for what felt like an eternity. The thought of my family, of sunlight on my face, of breathing fresh air again, it was the push I needed. I had to try. Securing my pack and taking a deep breath, I slipped into the icy water. The shock was brutal, stealing my breath. I clung to the rock wall, my fingers numb, and began to pull myself along against the current, towards the source of the breeze. The tunnel was completely submerged in sections. I'd have to hold my breath, pull myself through the darkness, and pray I'd find an air pocket on the other side. The first dive was terrifying. I plunged into the black, pulling hand over hand along the rough stone, my lungs screaming for air. Just as I thought I couldn't hold on any longer, my head broke the surface into a small, domed chamber. I gasped for air, relief washing over me. But the journey was far from over. I repeated this terrifying process again and again. Dive into the blackness, fight the current, and pray for air. The tunnel twisted and turned. My body was bruised, my muscles screamed in protest, but the breeze was getting stronger. It carried a new scent, something other than damp rock and mineral water. It smelled of earth, of moss, of life. Hope surged through me, a powerful current of its own. I was getting closer. Then I saw it. It wasn't sunlight, not yet. It was a faint, greenish glow, filtering down from above. The most beautiful light I had ever seen. The river passage opened into a vast vertical cavern, and high above, was a hole to the outside world. The final challenge was a sheer, wet wall of rock, at least 200 feet high. This was what the rope was for. My hands were numb and clumsy with cold, but I forced my fingers to work, tying the knots I had practiced 1,000 times. I found a solid-looking rock formation to anchor my rope. I tested it, putting all my weight on it. It held. Slowly, painstakingly, I began to climb. It was a brutal, vertical battle. My body was screaming, depleted of all energy. My arms felt like lead. Each pull was an agony. I focused on one handhold at a time. Left, right, pull. Left, right, pull. The green glow grew brighter, turning into the familiar grey light of an overcast sky. I could smell the rain, the wet soil. I was almost there. With one final, desperate heave, I pulled myself over the edge. I collapsed onto a carpet of moss, sobbing. Rain fell on my face, washing away the grime and the tears. I was surrounded by ferns and ancient trees, the air thick with the smell of life. I had made it. I was out. The darkness of the cave had been absolute, a world without light or hope. But even in the deepest black, a single spark of determination can be enough to find your way back to the light. I lay there for a long time, just breathing, feeling the rain alive. I survived, and as I looked back at the dark hole I had emerged from, I knew I would never ever take the daylight for granted again. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there.